Good Saturday to you, everybody. Income 785. Welcome to, ready for this week? Boom, bam, 13. One more week to go. Okay. But one more cup of coffee to go. What do we have here this morning? From one of my favorite local coffee shops, Shortwave Coffee. Support your local coffee shops. I mean, what do you know? Where else are you going to get coffee? Like imported? No. Okay. How's everybody doing? Yes, I'm back. Thank you. A number of you emailed me, said, I hope things are going well, and your mom as well. And she's okay. Things are supposed to wind down. That's the way of things. Don't like it. It's our time here on this material plane is limited. Okay. So bearing that in mind, do good work in what you do. And don't worry too much about everything that you didn't get done. If you do the work that you're called to in an ethical and moral and Christian way, don't worry about things left undone. I mean, leave some work for subsequent generations. Okay, that's stuff for them to do. All right, they need that. Okay. I've actually been back for about a week. You see week 13 is up and posted. We're coming to the end of our text. We've gone through the entirety of the Wilson text. We've gone through most of both of the Chialdini text. And now we're going to be finishing up when helping hurts. So we have just a little bit left for this coming week, which will be Monday, Tuesday, because, this is Saturday. I apologize for not getting this video out to you sooner. I have been home. I have been in the office. My wife has been away, though. Her mother is not doing well. It's my mother, everybody's mother. And so I've been running, Command Ship Gardener solo. Excuse me. And it's just pulled me in a lot of directions in other classes that I have. And things. But let's talk about this coming week and the wrap up for the course. Okay. So first things first, this next week is our last week. And don't ask me why. It's summer courses. There are only 14 weeks in a summer course because summer course, I don't know, it's usually 16. But class ends a week from today. That is Saturday the 16th, strangely enough. And so everything has to be done, wrapped, finished, kaput in the can by that time. If you are having any issues with your group project, with your preparation for the final exam, now is the time to contact me. I want to help you. Please don't contact me like Wednesday or Thursday of next week, because then I can't do anything for you. Okay. I'm happy to shift schedules around, but I have a hard stop on the 16th. And let me tell you what, the registrar's office rides me like a circus pony to get those grades in. And that is what I must do. Here's what I'm thinking. Let me throw this out to you, and maybe I'll write it up and put it in the announcement. You know what I mean? Let's have your final projects due on the 14th. That's Thursday. And then I'll open the final exam on May the 15th. And, like the stroke of midnight. And you'll have 24 hours to complete it. That's one thing that we could do. Or we could have your final projects due on they got to be due on the 14th. So I could open the exam on the 15th and have it close on the night of the 15th, or open the exam on the 15th and have it close the night of the 16th. That is Saturday. But one way or another, everything has to be done and in the can by the 16th, because that means, it's a race for me to get everything graded. Okay. If that's not okay for anybody, please shoot me an email. Let me know. All right. All right. As for the rest of the stuff, I will have all the rest of your material graded by the close of the weekend. So I've gotten through most of your discussions, and if you didn't know, I give you the the full points for your part one. I suppose I should enter that in the grade book. Okay. The one that you presented during residency. All right. So the final exam structurally is going to be the same as the midterm exam. That is, there'll be a mix of questions. You're going to get multiple choice, short answer, essay. Same rules apply as with the midterm exam. Close all your tabs, close book, close notes, please. And there are some of you that that I had a discussion with. Don't open any other tabs. Don't draw material from anywhere else, because at the end of the semester, I'm out of time to have discussions with people, and I will just assign a 0 to the assignment, right? The final exam is worth 300 points. That's the third of your grade. All right. So how do you best prepare for the final exam? The same way that you prepared for the midterm. Go back and study the discussion questions. And yes, the final exam is cumulative. So, it'll include material that came from the midterm. It's not going to be exactly in the same way. I mean, what would be the point? You're not parrots, and we're not trying to test your ability to just regurgitate and repeat, right? We are interested in synthesis. We are interested in processing. We are interested in compilation. We are interested in hearing the gears turning. So they may be worded in a number of instances different than you saw them before, but it'll be focused on the same material. And then from the discussion sections of the midterm forward, that will be the new stuff for the final exam. Okay, so that's how you prepare for that. All right, let's speaking of which, in support of that, let me very briefly, because man, this could be a long video if I went over it in depth and read your answers. Let me very briefly hop through the questions from the last 2 weeks that you answered and we haven't covered, okay, to give you a focal point for them. Okay, week 11, question 1. In when helping hurts, etc., a certain Dr. John Perkins opens the forward by asking, have you ever done anything to help the poor? Okay. Now, first of all, just make this a habit. When you start reading a text and you read something from somebody, some quote or some anchoring statement, that it's not like the quote that you'll see just thrown out on the page to open up a chapter, to some song lyric or fragment of poetry. When you're reading a text or when you're reading a paper and there is a statement, a quote, a discussion, and this one is not long from Perkins, find out who that person is, okay? Because it's his perspective that is anchoring the theme, the tone of the book, because they wouldn't have picked him. That is the authors. So who is this guy? All right. So look him up. Okay. And it's fair to ask the question, this guy's making a statement about X, Y, and Z. And in this case, it's helping the poor. Okay. Who is this guy? And what are his credentials? Has he done anything to help the poor as far as you can determine? Or is this just theoretical? Make that a habit. All right. And then consider that question. Have you ever done anything to hurt poor people? Now, this doesn't mean, you're walking down the street and there's some guy with a sign and a cup and you kick him in the ribs or something. That's not what we're talking about here, which, would obviously be hurting, but that's not what we're talking about here. Okay. So how would you answer this question? Summarize what he says about various federal programs. This is Dr. Perkins again. And in your opinion, is Dr. Perkins concerned about how federal programs hurt the poor? Okay. Now, as you go forward, some of you may end up working in government organizations. You may end up working in not-for-profits. And there's a significant amount of money and time and effort in both of these sectors that's expended helping those that are disadvantaged or I don't even like that word, honestly, that are disadvantaged. I don't like the passive construction. All right. Helping development among people. So poor understand in the application as it might pertain to you and your work as a strategic communicator can have a wide breadth of definition. We're not necessarily talking about those in the third world or developing world, whichever you like, that are trying to, get by on 50 cents a day or whatever ridiculous amount is being meted out for their work. That might not be it. Okay, so pay attention to how you would answer these questions. Take a stand. All right, question number 2. After reading the preface to When Helping Hurts, answer the following. What do the authors, mean? The typo. I have a couple in here. And alleviate, I don't know what the heck that is. Alleviate. Pardon me for my typo. Is the O and the I close on the keyboard? I guess, yeah, they're right next to each other. What do the authors mean when they write, no single sector can alleviate poverty on its own? Do you agree with the statement? Support your answer with a link to an article or report from the World Wide Web. Okay, so in researching a question like this, you might be asked something about what the author said, something about why this should be one of in your considered opinion. On the exam, maybe a matching, which one is closest to the statement of the author. Okay, but the bigger picture here is what I want you to understand is why is it, according to these authors, and I believe they're correct, this fragmented approach to human development doesn't work. Okay, now to your work as a communication professional. Here's where you need to make a choice. All right. When I say this fragmented approach to human development doesn't work, it depends on what you define as work. Or let's use the gerundive, working. Because for the organizations, it's certainly working because it justifies their existence, their budget, and their expansion of what they do. But for the target, that is those that are in need of development, is it working? All right. Now, I happen to agree with the authors. I mean, having spent many years working in humanitarian relief, that this isolated approach to human development doesn't work. All right. But for you, when you get out into the market and you're working somewhere and you're working for an organization, and you'll be able to see, or you should keep your eyes open as to whether or not the organization is taking a whole problem, whole person approach, or if it's taking this sort of fragmentary, we're just going to be working on this and forget about all of that. Is this a place that does good and effective work, and do you want to stay there? Okay. Okay. Question number 3. Answer that. Now here I'm taking material from one, Cialdini, and asking you to apply it to the other. What is the scarcity principle? So obviously, you'd have to be able to define that on the test. Okay. How might this principle be applied to not-for-profit work? Should it ever be applied? All right. I'm not going to give you the answer to that. Actually, you see it all the time if you watch communication pieces for not-for-profit, especially poverty relief. Okay, I'll give you the answer. And that is, that it's sort of the scarcity principle in reverse. The scarcity principle is, act now. Supplies are limited. Get your tickets while you can. It's this sort of a hurry, hurry, hurry. And fundamentally, it all settles out, the scarcity principle and these things, to pushing the fear button, okay, which is the most common across the board technique approach to influence, is threat. I don't like it. All right. We shouldn't be threatening people as a means by which to get them to do things. Like, hey man, can we go through life with a lot more carrot and a little less stick? You know what I'm saying? That's the way it is. Okay, so scarcity is in fact threat. Now, is this applied to not-for-profit? Yeah, you see it all the time. You often see it in reverse. Just $1 a day, so just a teeny weeny amount, will make the difference in the lives of these children, etc., etc., etc. Or you'll see it applied as it's actually designed. Time is running out for little Bobo, or Emmanuel, or Khalid, or whatever. Insert poor child. Help now. All right, so it's like there's a clock ticking, and if you don't write a check, this kid's going to starve. Okay, is that ethical? Now, in some instances in which there's an actual unfolding of a genuine emergency, okay, you're telling it like it is. In most instances, is that the case? That is there the unfolding of an emergency, or this is just the scarcity principle at work? Okay, week 12, question 1 in Wilson et al. Okay, Zurcher is quoted as writing, Stephanie, that is, pay for play are not such dirty words any longer. What does she mean by this? And what are the wider implications for PR and strategic communications? Man, are we drowning in this? Pay for play. Okay. And I don't think it's a good thing, but I'm going to let you have your say. Okay, so be able to identify what it is, and you could pick it out amongst multiple choice, or you could write a short essay on it, or you could write a true false about it. Okay, question number 2. In Wilson et al., consider the tips from how to preserve your reputation. After briefly summarizing each of the 4 tips, which of the 4 is, in your considered opinion, critical for the strategic communication professional? Okay, so for this one, obviously I'm going to ask you to be able to identify the 4 tips. So you saw this on the midterm. It might be a question in which, which of the following is not one of the 4 tips, or true or false, these are the 4 tips, stuff like that. Just know them. All right, that's what that's going to be asking of you. Question 3. According to Kobe and Fiekert, what was the great reversal? And this is, history contextualization of our field and work is important, because human behavior, in terms of its fundamental elements, is pretty constant. Now, how humans are conditioned and then over an arc tend to behave, that does change. That does change. Okay. But the foundational elements, the characters of what it is that causes the reaction that can be conditioned to change the arc, those remain fairly constant. And so looking at how it is that Christians once approached poverty and then changed, and then asking the question, are we still in that state? Should there be a reversal of the reversal? That's what we're after here. And, I mean, if you've read the text, you know what the answer is, but wink, wink, it's not unlike, it's the great reversal is not far from what Dan Pallotta discussed in his book Uncharitable, the link to the TED Talk that I gave you a long time ago. Okay, question 4. Colbert and Fiekert begin chapter 1 of their work by asking, why did Jesus come to earth? Answer the question, then consider in writing. How your answer reveals your attitudes about the poor. How might your answer shape or have shaped your views about helping the poor? Okay, so here, obviously, I'm asking you to be able to identify what it is that the author is up to. And then I want you to develop as a Christian thinker, as a Christian communicator. Okay. One, minor thing. When I originally posted in the modules, I think this was week 11. I think I may have week 11 or week 12. I think I may have said, read chapter 1. What I meant was read part 1 of the text, that is the When Helping Hurts. All right. So if you haven't figured that out already, okay. So actually, week 11 was the preface and the forward. Week 12 was part 1. So make sure that you read all of part 1, and it's not a long book, and it's a dang good book. All right. There's just a lot going on in there. Okay. All right, everybody. Tell me what you think about projects. That I got to have the project due on the 14th because I need that. I need part of Friday to get ahead of it. But then opening the exam, say on Friday, and we can close it Saturday night at the stroke of midnight. All right. If that works for you, let me know. Or more to the point, if that doesn't work for you and you've got something coming up, you have other classes, you got work, you're going to be out of town or whatever, contact me now. Okay. All right, folks. It's good to be back. I've actually missed talking to you, even though I'm just talking to a webcam, because you respond, and that's good to hear from you. Okay. And I hope that your summer has gone well. All right, everybody. Take care, and I will see you on Canvas. God bless.